Good afternoon. I woke up first at 11 o'clock or something like that, and then just could not stay awake. So I kept on sleeping. And now it is like 2 o'clock. I want to eat and get started with my stream. Probably want to talk a little bit about the Riot walkout that's happening today because, you know, as a former Rioter, I have my opinions on the ordeal. Obviously I can't share everything, but I can at least give sort of my perspective on stuff and kind of my feelings about this situation. So yeah.
It destroyed my ass. Nice.
Oh!
Oh, you got two. Ambitious.
Let's see if we can make it 3. Oh, 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 we can make it 3. Well, I got done with my stream, and I streamed for a long time today. I streamed 7 hours of solo queue. Got to gold 1 and was doing fine, and then man, I just got into like Tilt City and just like did super bad in the last few games. But that is the League of Legends life, and that's basically all I did today. I woke up, ate, streamed, ate, and now I'm here after watching some episodes of anime. Finished Run with the Wind, very, very good by the way. It's just a sports anime that wraps up in 24-ish episodes, and it's very good. It's just classic sports anime tropes of trying your best, being an underdog team who overcomes their odds, finds the meaning of competition within each individual member. It's just very good. Anyways, besides that, like I said earlier in the vlog, I kind of wanted to talk about the Riot Games stuff. So for people who are out of the loop, today there was a big walkout at Riot Games. Over 100 employees decided to leave the office and dedicate their time to talking about some of the issues that are happening within Riot. And just to kind of review the story so far, basically, so a couple of months ago there was a big article that Kotaku released talking about sexual harassment allegations against some people within the company. There were stories about how women were mistreated. There was also stories about other things, you know, just overall just things that you wouldn't want to see in a professional environment. The article blew up and more stories came out from the woodworks. Lots of people came out talking about how Riot has a culture of mistreating women and just their employees in general. This basically got escalated to the point where Riot was sort of forced to make a stance on it, and in order to solve some of these issues, they did a number of things. They hired Francis Frey, who was someone who Uber brought in to help with some of their own diversity issues. They also forced all the employees to take anti-harassment training, and everyone did a lot of workshops in sort of the goal of learning to be better about harassment and such like that. And I think for a lot of people, myself included, lots of people weren't really happy with that, because some of the problems that have come up within Riot aren't about sort of the day-to-day employee, but people at the very top. One of the names that got brought up in terms of people who were part of the allegations was Scott Gelb, who is the COO of Riot Games, literally one of the top 3 people in the company. Riot became pressured by its employees to sort of, you know, contend with things that have happened in its past, and they forced the CEO to take a step down and to take unpaid leave for 2 months. But I think for a lot of people that still wasn't good enough. And so things started to escalate again, and eventually got to a point where some of the employees decided to take a class action lawsuit against Riot Games. This also got reciprocated from Riot Games by saying, well, we will do this thing called a forced arbitration. And a forced arbitration basically means we're not going to settle this in a court of law where there's going to be a jury and stuff. Instead, let's talk about it privately, and we'll hire somebody to sort of arbitrate between the two. Now, historically, these sort of company arbitrations don't really go super hot for the individual. In fact, I think most people know that the arbitration almost always favors the corporation. So obviously with that was also kind of out of the question for the employees. In fact, to point to a different example within the tech industry, Google used to have forced arbitration as well, and the employees revolted against that, and Google no longer uses forced arbitration. So similarly, something like that is happening today at Riot Games, where people are walking out and saying, you know, this is not okay. None of these things are okay, and we want to do better than that. And I just kind of want to chip in and say, like, I fully support the people at Riot Games. You know, I think I'm lucky. In the 5 years I worked at Riot Games, I think I was mainly insulated from a lot of these issues. But it was kind of crazy to find out that just beyond my team that I worked with on a day-to-day basis at Riot Games, there was all these things that were happening. You know, I worked in just a small sector within the NA regional office, but even within the NA regional office, I started hearing about the different stories that have happened, and it's appalling, really. And so that's kind of the history of what has happened thus far with Riot Games and its employees. And so now I kind of want to talk to you guys about my personal take on the situation. And personally speaking, it's just super disheartening to know that this company that I worked for has all these sort of issues. Because I think for a lot of people, working at Riot Games is a dream job. I think working in the video games industry in general is a dream job for a lot of people. You know, I grew up loving video games, and it was always kind of a pipe dream of mine that I would one day work for a video game company, because I love video games, and how cool would it be to work for a company that makes some of my favorite video games? That's kind of the logic there for me. And so when you hear these stories about how shitty the video game industry is, it's, you know, it kind of crushes your dreams, and I think that sucks. In my experience at Riot Games, I had a lot of fun. In the 5 years that I worked there, I could say without a doubt that it was basically a dream job. I got to do some of the coolest things I think I've ever done in my life, and without Riot, like, I don't know where I would be today. But that said, like, these issues are a huge problem, and, you know, I want to see Riot take steps to fixing them. It's just really unfortunate that it feels like at every step of the way, Riot's leadership has sort of swept everything under the rug in every way possible, and it feels like at every turn Riot's leadership could have done something, taken a bigger stance on the situation, but instead we're kind of like, what's you know, just let's just push it over there. Almost like out of sight, out of mind. And one of the big situations for me was sort of what happened with Scott Gelb. Scott Gelb, like I said, was one of the big names that came up during some of these allegations. And, you know, a 2-month leave of absence is like, that's basically a slap on the wrist. I mean, you would think that for most people, if they were accused of sexual harassment in the workplace, they would just be outright fired on the spot, right? And a 2-month leave is just so... it doesn't have any impact, because also a 2-month leave of absence, if the punishment is that he's not getting paid for 2 months, well, that's dumb, because, excuse me, this guy has already made millions off of Riot Games. You know, 2 months of not being paid is not going to be that big of a deal. The fact that this guy can do all those things and then still be the COO of Riot Games is just kind of disgusting. And the truth is, if you can't keep your leadership accountable for things like sexual harassment, then how are you supposed to keep anybody else accountable for these things? Are you only supposed to fire people if you feel as a company that they are important to your company? I think that's a really shitty precedent to set. In terms of the bigger picture at hand with the video games industry as a whole, I think more and more horror stories are coming out from the industry about how shitty it is to work for the video games industry. It feels like almost predatory on people who are passionate about video games, which is people like me, people like you maybe, people, there's tons of people like me that are out there who are super passionate about video games and would love to work in there, and you're telling me that all these people are just getting farmed up basically to be worked in shitty situations where you're forced to work crunch hours all the time and there's sexual harassment allegations going all around? Like, that's terrible, right? And so my hope is that the stuff with Riot Games becomes a bigger issue within the video games industry and the tech industry at large, because this stuff doesn't just remain within Riot Games. You know, sexual harassment isn't just limited to Riot Games, it happens everywhere. I just hope that it's one of those things that more people take awareness of, and I hope that more of these issues just come to light, so that, you know, I want the video game industry to be a place that people would love to work at. So yeah, I don't know, that's sort of my thoughts about the situation. I don't know if that was coherent. It's getting kind of late now, and I just kind of want to get this vlog done with, because I gotta get up early tomorrow because I have a doctor's appointment to potentially finally end the surgery arc once and for all. But yeah, those are kind of my thoughts, and if you guys have any questions and stuff like that, I'd be happy to answer them in the YouTube comments as best as I can. But yeah, that's pretty much it for my vlog. Since I ended up basically streaming all day, I didn't really do much of anything, so I hope that at least this sort of random sit-down talk was interesting or maybe enlightening, I don't know. But yeah, in particular, if you guys have any questions about the video game industry, I think I would love to answer them. Yep, that's it. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will catch you guys tomorrow. If you guys are watching this, you know, come check out my stream. Anyways, thanks for watching. Bye. See you guys next time.